What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and today we're talking Sun and Moon and price movements month over month within that space. And I love this video series. I think this is a great way for us to keep a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the hobby now. But since we've been doing it for 6 months, we've been doing this since September, we can also start to see that how these products have been trending over time. Now, if you want to tell a story with data and you want to do it over time, the best way to do it is with a graph, right? So I've changed the way I present this information. I did it for the Sword and Shield video last week, and you guys said you really enjoyed that. You'd like the presentation better. So here we are doing it for Sun and Moon, and we're going to stick with it moving forward. So, I got the table there on the left, and that shows you when we started looking, and this is specifically for the top 20 singles cards and the total aggregate value of those that come from a booster box, right? So no specialty sets. The total value for those top 20 cards from those 12 sets in September was $12,604. Then you can see in October, when we aggregated it again, it went down to $12,496, down a little less than 1%. And then you can just see how it's been slowly working its way down. Now, last month in January, the total value was $11,387. And this month, the trend continues, right? In mid-February, that aggregate value has dropped to $11,158, down another 2%. Like, look at that graph. It started to fight just a little bit that first month, and then it has been on a steady 2 to 3% decline ever since then. I don't know if this is going to continue. I do, and I've been saying this for a while, and I know a lot of you agree with me. I think the Sun and Moon single space got way, way, way too hot there, like during the pandemic pump, and after that when the market was really, really frothy. So I'm not surprised to see these coming down. It's going to be really interesting to continue to follow this and see how long and how far these singles cards drop for. And then you see there in the bottom in the big bold letters, I went ahead and said, listen, from September to February, it is down 11.5%. Now that sounds really bad, and it's certainly not good. But if you think about it, these are cards which are just simply normalizing in price. And we did Sun and Moon last week. When you looked at Sun and Moon, guess what? It was down 11.3%. So even though the trends, the graph, the lines are moving very differently, right? Sun and Moon saw some aggressive, some pretty steady drops here versus Sword and Shield, which saw some very aggressive drops early, and Sword and Shield is actually starting to level out. So if you haven't watched that video, go and check it out. It's really cool to see what Sword and Shield is doing, especially now that we're going to talk about Sun and Moon. So not only do we talk about the singles cards, we also talk about the booster boxes, right? And here we start to see some green, and here we start to see a good story, just like we did in Sword and Shield. And it's been really interesting. It did drop there for a couple months from September to November, and then it's just been kind of stair-stepping its way up, right? Like, you all are buttoned-up investors. You all know that nothing ever moves linearly, right? There's never a straight line up or a straight line down. So as we start to get more data points, and as we continue to do this, for as long as the channel's around for, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of stair-steps its way up, and then when we hit some periods of rough patches, how it kind of works its way back down too. But it is interesting to see that the booster boxes over the same period of time, the top 20 singles cards are down 11.4%, and then the booster boxes are actually up 3.2%. That doesn't surprise any of us, right? We all know that sealed collecting is really hot right now, and the Sun and Moon products have been specifically hot as well. So with that being said, if you enjoy this kind of content, if seeing data presented like this and understanding that we're going to be doing this way into the future, if all that gets you excited, hit that subscribe button. If you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big thumbs up. I got to sell out and say that because those 3 small things go a long way in helping my small channel out. Lets me know you appreciate all the work that I put in behind the scenes. So with that being said, let's start looking at the specific sets and how they've moved over the last month. So we start off with Cosmic Eclipse and Unified Minds. Now, Cosmic Eclipse has been on a steady downward spiral. It started off at -4%, -6%, -5%, and now last month to this month, it is down -2%. So again, when you look at what it has been doing, down -2%, that's actually a reduction in loss, right? Like, it's still down, but the rate of depreciation has slowed down a little bit. Now, Unified Minds has kind of been doing the same thing, but it is down 1% this month, right? So again, you feel like they might maybe be trying to get some steam. They might maybe be trying to get some traction. We'll have to see, but at least they're down, but they're not down as much as they have been in the past. And I do get excited. If you look at Cosmic and Unified, the 2 chase cards for both of them is up, which is good. I like to see some love at the top. I think that's very, very important to see some strength there at the top. We don't see that a lot throughout the course of this video, spoiler alert, but it was exciting to see that then. And then, the other thing I talk about is there's not a lot of green here. So it's going to be interesting to see where we start to see these different green blocks concentrate as we start to get to the later sets. But overall, Cosmic Eclipse down 2% month over month, but I love to see the chase card is up. Unified Minds down 1% month over month. Again, in the grand scheme of things, that's not too terrible. And I love to see that that chase card in Unified is up 4%. I love Cosmic. I love Unified Minds. The other 2 sets I really, really love, along with everybody else out there, right, is Unbroken Bonds and, of course, Team Up. But What's interesting thing to me is even Team Up's not immune, right? Even a Team Up that's going for, $1,800, $2,000 a booster box, depending, on how lucky you are, or how good your eBay auction skills are. Like even those singles, like 18 of the top 20 cards are down month over month, including almost all of them in the top 10. And we've actually seen that for a while now. We've been watching the Team Up top 10 cards have been under a ton of pressure. So it was interesting to me to see that continue, because a lot of times when we see a lot of red month after month after month, you'll just see this random month where it decides to kind of shoot back up and gain some traction. But that certainly did not happen this month with Team Up. And then Unified Minds, hey, a small bright spot, right? We got a lot of green at the bottom of Unbroken Bonds. The booster box price seems to be doing pretty good. What was interesting to me is to see that the Unbroken Bonds and Unified Minds booster boxes are pretty much the exact same price. I mean, almost to the dollar. Now, I pull all of this information from Polkadata.io, and I really like that when it comes to sealed product, because, that does eBay auctions and TCG Player. Like, it just incorporates a whole lot of things. So it's interesting to see where these prices are. But again, listen, even the big dog from the Sun and Moon era, Team Up, is not immune to some month-over-month price losses. And again, Team Up down 2% from last month to this month. Now, getting into Lost Thunder and Celestial Storm, listen, I don't get it with Celestial Storm. I'll be the first one to say that. A couple months ago, I did a graph where we looked at all the booster box prices for the sets in Sun and Moon, and we graphed how they performed over the last 2 years. And it was interesting to watch Celestial Storm. It has just been on this. I mean, if you're a data hound, you almost never see information like this. Earlier, I talked about how you never see lines that are linear, straight up or straight down, right? But Celestial Storm has just been this steady eddy upward in the right trajectory from a booster box perspective. And then when you sit back and you look at the card lineup, like, to me, it's just not that great. I'm sorry. Like, I know we got the big Chase Trainer there at the top, but it's just not my favorite set, and it's the same thing for Lost Thunder. You look at the booster box price for Lost Thunder, like that's up there with Unified Minds and Unbroken Bonds, and I really like the card lineup in those other two sets even more. And then when you look at how the sets as a whole have been performing in regards to their top 20 cards month over month, again, Lost Thunder is down 3%, Celestial Storm is down 2%. It's just really, really interesting to see how these sealed products have been performing in Sun and Moon. A lot of times we talk about, hey, we need the big star power, like we need these big cards, but in this Sun and Moon series, in this block, we start to see a whole lot of sets that are still being driven by trainer cards, which is fascinating, because a lot of trainer cards right now certainly aren't doing well, and we're going to get into one of those sets here in just a minute. But really cool to see how Lost Thunder and Celestial Storm have moved month over month. Getting into Forbidden Light, and the one I was just talking about, Ultra Prism, right? Ultra Prism, they've got those big chase cards right there. 3 of them over $100 right now. The big one right there obviously is over $400. But guess what? 6 of the top 6 cards, they're all trainer cards in Ultra Prism. And I just have to ask myself sometimes, like, are they going to be able to hold on? Are those singles cards going to be able to retain their prices in the long term? Like, I know full art trainers had their time in the sun, especially the ones in the Sun and Moon block. Like, they're absolutely stunning. There's some beautiful artwork, but I just don't know how long they can hold on. But the Ultra Prism booster boxes are doing just fine. They don't seem to care, right? Up over $600 right now. So the aggregate for the top 20 singles cards in Ultra Prism is down 3%, and you see a lot of weakness there, right? Chase card down 4%. The number 2 card is down 10%, so you're starting to see some softness there. Now, Forbidden Light, guess what? In Forbidden Light, we actually see more strength than we've seen in a lot of sets. We see more green bars there, almost a 50-50 green versus red bar, but it's hard to recover from the overall price when your Chase card is down 5% and the number 2 card is down 4%, and then the number 4 card is down 6%, right? So Forbidden Light had a lot of weakness at the top, so the overall value of those top 20 cards is down 2%. So I'm really interested to see what happens with Ultra Prism in the long run. That's one of the ones I'm keeping an eye on. You know that I have some trainer cards in the Sword and Shield era that I'm really, really high on that I think are way undervalued. And I think keeping an eye on how something like Ultra Prism pans out might give us some idea, right? They're not going to follow the same path because Sword and Shield was a different era with different print runs and just different demand. But it'll be interesting to see how these Ultra Prism trainers, handle over the test of time. Now, getting into the next sets right here. Crimson Invasion and Burning Shadows, right? Now we're getting into the very first 4 sets from the Sun and Moon block, and let's be honest, they don't get a lot of love. They just don't. When you look at Crimson Invasion is 6 years old and it doesn't have a single card over $35 in it, which is, it's kind of crazy, right? Like, that's a very, very hard pill to swallow for somebody like me. I like to think that there's going to be some age to these sets, and just organically over time, the singles cards, even if they're not the best cards in the world, they're going to retain some value. But again, Crimson Invasion, I think, is an anomaly. Even when you look at Burning Shadows over there, of course, you have the big Zard there at the top, but even as you funnel down, you got a $72 $32 card, a $65 card, a $45 card. So Crimson Invasion really is like the statistical anomaly when it comes to all of that. So you can forget that and throw it out. But again, another set that was under a lot of pressure. The overall top 20 from Crimson Invasion was down 4% month over month. Booster Box did a little better, back up over $200 in that booster box. And Burning Shadows booster boxes, they've actually been gaining a lot of momentum over the last couple months. They showed a really strong month now, coming up at $450. Again, you know, a big chase card like that Zard in there, I think has the ability to further down the road really drive some booster box value. So as we're thinking in the Scarlet and Violet era, as we're thinking the Sword and Shield era, which the windows are closing really, really quickly, like which one of these are going to have those real big chase cards that people are going to covet further down the road, and it's going to add some value to those booster boxes. We talk about that a lot when we're referencing the Sword and Shield era. So the next two right here and the final two, Guardian Rising and Sun and Moon, okay? The two OGs from the Sun and Moon era. And man, Guardian Rising had an absolute atrocious month. Only 2 cards in the green. The one is in the green up 1%, and the one isn't even measurable at 1%. It's just up less than 1%, which is absolutely crazy. Lots and lots of softness there, right? Like the Lily over in Sun and Moon, you know, that had a really strong month a couple months ago. I think that the price got so low that people just went in and bought it out. We saw it spike up 20%. But the last 2 months, it's been giving back some of that. Not quite all of it, but it was a little sad for me to see it down 5% month over month. Now, Sun and Moon was our last hope. I'm going to say this. Sun and Moon was our last hope because I didn't talk about this in the beginning because I didn't want to kind of rain on everybody's parade. But Sun and Moon's top 20 cards actually did end up in the negative. It was barely in the negative, but it was in the negative month over month. And this is the first time ever that we have seen all 12 sets be negative month over month in regards to their top 20 card pricing. We haven't seen that in Sword and Shield, and we've done that for 6 months. We haven't seen it in Sun and Moon until now, and we've done that for 6 months. So out of 12 opportunities, this is the first time it's ever happened. And I don't know if that's a sign of things to come or not, but I did think it was worth noting that all 12 of the sets that we've looked at today on this video, their top 20 cards, the prices have been down month over month. So what do I take out of that? I do think Sun and Moon singles are going to continue to be under pressure. And again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't want anybody to take their polka dollars and shove them under the mattress and be afraid of it. Now, does that mean I'm buying any Sun and Moon singles right now? Absolutely not. I'm not buying any. I'm sitting on the sidelines, right? Like I'm waiting until nobody knows when the bottom's going to happen. But I think with us keeping our finger on the pulse of the hobby like this and with the market like this, I think we'll start to see when things start to normalize. And then maybe there'll be some epic cards that you haven't been able to afford or you haven't wanted to spend the money on in the past that are more approachable price point, so we'll be able to go after them there. So listen, even though Sun and Moon singles coming down is a little bit of a wah-wah moment, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just a correction. It's not a crash or anything. Like I think it's going to be just fine in the long run. And then, hey, when we're talking about Sword and Shield for Sun and Moon, I'm telling you right now, my eyes on the prize with Sword and Shield. I've been talking about that a lot right now, and it's just going to be interesting. We've talked a lot about what the next couple of years are going to be looking like here in the Pokemon space. Are prices going to go up? Are prices going to go down? Are they going to flatten out? You know, I've given some opinions on that, and I've done some videos on that in the past, but I do think that this video series is going to help us keep a finger on the pulse of that. And I'm really excited what we can do with all of this data, not just now and not just month over month, but as I continue to get more, I'll continue to find new ways to slice it and dice it and present some cool stuff for you guys. So listen, if you made it to the very end, first off, thank you. You're awesome. I appreciate it. Second off, if you haven't hit the subscribe button, what are you doing? Hit the subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you see, give us a big old thumbs up. You all have an epic one. I can't possibly thank you enough for the watch, and I hope you have a great day. Talk to everybody soon. Bye.